now I learned that we could do, like, at the beginning, it's like, coming up, tips on
Yes,
that,
true,
and
and
then
then you gotta
people
stay
watch
all the
the
way through.
end. Yes, Jen. Welcome everyone. My name is Claire, and this is my channel, Woodshed Theory. Here, I make content about what it's like to live as an adult on the autism spectrum and whatever else feels good to me. So if that sounds good to you, or if you're feeling particularly gracious today, and I hope that you are, please go ahead and click the subscribe button. Jen's to ring the bell. I almost forgot to mention that I try to put out more than one video a week, so click the like and the share. Help me get to 25K before the end of next year. That's a big goal. Okay, everybody, welcome to my first collab of 2024. And I'm so pleased and words and excited and honored.
Descriptors.
Yeah, chuffed to introduce to you my new friend Jenn from Neurodivergence. She's newer to the YouTube crowd, but not super new. She's almost a year in, and today we're just gonna have a chat about our life on YouTube and our life as autistic women, and we'll try not to be too awkward and nervous about it. I'm Yep, that's how it's going. So, yeah, Jen, why don't you introduce yourself and thanks for being on the show? Question mark.
Yeah, the show. First of all, when are you coming out with a single for your intro song? It's going to be a Billboard Top 20, I have a feeling. Thank you for making me your first collab of 2024. I'm pretty gosh darn honored. It's a great way to kick off the year. Um, So intros. There's a lot of people out there that know my story, but to condense it into the TLDR, which I just recently learned what that means, too long didn't read. My son was diagnosed, and being a little boy on the spectrum, he had much more noticeable, externally observable behaviors. His teacher called it out. And I then learned it was hereditary after he got his diagnosis. And I was like, that's why I'm weird. That's what's been going on with me my whole life. And it was the biggest eye-opening aha moment of my whole entire life, because it was like everything finally started making sense. And I was previously diagnosed with ADHD, and then quickly found out that I'm on the spectrum. So I was like, oh, I was misdiagnosed, found out you could have them both at the same time. So here I am,
So
ADHD.
you were like, DHD.
Oh, you need to patent that, put it on a shirt.
Ah,
That makes so much sense. ADHD. Yes, that's what it was like for me.
cool. Okay. Well, I'm happy that you agreed to speak to me today. For maybe some of those who are not autistic who are watching, um, I think it's pretty common that most autistic girls struggle more to be open and talk to each other than with males. I don't know what the reason is in particular. I think uh, in my mind, communicating with males is typically more straightforward,
Mhm.
and they're like okay with you being more uh, blunt, and they find that maybe even a little refreshing. And then, like, but talking to women is like there's more social rules that I don't understand.
Yep.
So that is, so if you notice me being a little bit more nervous today, it's just because I'm excited and nervous. So
Nerve-sighted. That's what my daughter told me. You can combine the two and say that you're nerve-sighted. Absolutely. I struggle with the same thing 100%. And I had said in one of my first videos when I was kind of introducing myself and talking about some of my traits. I was saying, that I've always felt like I've had a more like quote unquote male oriented brain. And a lot of times, like, I would be like, I feel like I don't fit in with the other girls.
Mhm.
And that's such a, term that like it doesn't get great traction because it sounds like you're trying to say other girls are like this stupid. I'm not like other girls, But
Right.
I'm like, no, I really, really, I wish I was. I feel so different and I struggle to communicate with girls and it's harder for me to be more direct and just have more like naturally flowing conversation with them. And so absolutely. And it's hard, because being married, being in a relationship, it's hard to say like, "Hey, I communicate better with guys," even though it's a true statement. So it's a very difficult path to navigate, finding that space where you can kind of like have more straightforward conversations. And but I'm just like you. It's funny because we actually talked about this before we hopped on, and I'm glad that we are able to just kind of be like open and transparent with each other. Like, hey, I get nervous like talking to women, and it's a little bit of a different dynamic and that kind of a thing.
Yeah. What's really funny to me is like I feel like I do communicate better with men, but that doesn't always translate into my marriage because I
Yeah,
like still struggle to communicate. Like it's not that it's like I
period.
communicate perfectly with the opposite gender. It's like just maybe better than
Hmm.
that, or I don't know. And I think I've improved with communicating with women. I think since my diagnosis. So you were diagnosed when you were how old?
39.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. How about
And
you?
31.
Okay.
And then before that, I was diagnosed with OCD and underwent treatment for that. So, um, I'm right in that comorbidity train like others,
Hmm.
just a little
Yeah.
different. Um, so when did you do your first video on YouTube?
I think it was back in April, um, April of 2023. And I kind of sat on it for probably about a year before I got brave enough to publish my first video. Um, and
So
I'd
you
always
filmed it in 2022. Or
2023. What did I
okay.
say?
Oh, you sat on the idea of putting it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
for like a year. Because, again, it was such a revelatory thing for me getting diagnosed that I had a lot in here that I really wanted to get off my chest. But I'm glad that I gave myself a little bit of time before I just started jumping out there and doing videos because I definitely learned a lot in that year and continued researching and continued listening to other YouTubers.
Hmm.
And I think in the beginning what I knew to what I know now and what I've discovered about myself is so vastly different. I feel like I might have been just like correcting my first 5 videos and like reframing everything as I went along and learned things more. um, but yeah, that was my very first video, was just kind of talking about how I came to find out that I was on the spectrum, my son getting diagnosed, and everything else. And I did not put all of my traits into that first video because I was like, this would be like a 5 hour long saga. Ain't nobody
Hmm.
got time for that. So I had to like separate that out. And honestly, I feel like my first few videos were such Herculean tasks to conquer because it was such a big subject. And then after you kind of get all of that out there, you're able to focus more on one subject at a time. But it felt so gargantuan because there's so many traits and symptoms to discuss and like sum up. How do you do that within like half an hour? So it
Right.
was hard. But those were my first few videos.
What about your first video? Was that like, did you find that particularly hard and heavy to do? Because I know for me it was like It just felt like I was like, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to, like, say out loud, knowing even though I was videotaping myself at the time and not saying it to anybody, knowing that I was going to put that out into the universe, like, made it very heavy for me.
Yeah. I think I saw that one where you
Don't go
were
back
just
and watch
kind
it,
of
guys, don't watch that video, it's really
I loved it because you were just, like, so raw and emotional, and I feel like I almost cried with you. Like, um, f I don't know that it was so hard for me to say it out loud, but, what I will say is that, most most people in my life don't know that I have this channel.
Mhm.
Not that I'm purposely hiding it from them, but because I know that the people that I have masked with my whole entire life may not believe me, you know. I haven't shared my diagnosis with everyone because I don't want them to think that I've put this channel out there for like seeking attention or whatever. Believe me, there are a lot of things that I could do to try to get attention that are not this. Is not
Right?
this vulnerable, that is not this, open and honest and raw, and in some ways, I don't wanna say embarrassing, but, like, just super vulnerable, it's like, probably not going to be getting a job after this. If somebody were to see this, they'd be like, "Oh, you're a little bit weird." I don't know, but, so for me, I felt maybe more comfortable putting my first video out there because it's like internet strangers. I could talk to
Right,
internet
yeah.
strangers.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think we wanted to talk a little bit today about being, uh, ladies, women, girlies on YouTube because there is that, well, I think it is brave to do, and I think there's something to be said for, like, wanting to have representation and help other people. I don't know if you felt this way. I was most afraid of, like, um, the negative aspects of sharing my life online and what that would mean for my in-person relationships, how would I handle, like, the negative feedback I'd get online? Like, have you experienced, um like, what has your experience been with the feedback so far? Has it been mostly positive or
I love this. I we need to chat about all the mean comments, get it off of our chest. Just kidding. No, I totally knew that that was going to be a thing, and I think I counted on, negative feedback so much that I actually wound up being completely pleasantly surprised when
Me
I
too.
found out that actually people are very supportive and, kind and say, "I feel you." And so I thought it would be like 1 out of every 5 comments would be somebody saying something hateful or ignorant, and I've quickly found out that it's probably maybe 1 in 100. I don't know if
Right.
that's just because we have such an awesome community,
Which I did
or
not expect that either. I didn't expect I didn't even think that there would be a community of people, like, to come alongside you. Like, I had no idea that was gonna happen. I really thought it was gonna be, because autism can be pretty lonely, And, you get pretty used to doing things, and comfortable doing things on your own because it's, like, much more pleasant sensory-wise. So, I never thought that there was gonna be, like, people who watched every single video and commented on every single video and sent me emails and wanted to know about my life. Like, I never thought that would be the case. I thought it was gonna be all hate comments.
and we still published our videos. Isn't that crazy? Like,
I think it speaks to strong desire the strong desire to, um, advocate, and then also, like, the how earth moving a late diagnosis is,
Mhm.
where it's
Yeah.
like, I I need other people to know because what if they don't know? Like, what if there are other people like me out there who have no idea and they're just feeling awful all the time like I was feeling?
Yep.
And I was willing to, like, put it on the line for that reason. Also, I wanted to start a YouTube channel, I guess, but had in the beginning, it was very hard to even say, like, "What's the channel about?" Like, people would ask, like, "Well, what are you doing on YouTube?" And I'm like, I don't I'm just sharing."
Kind of going back to the stigma of being a girl on the spectrum, I've seen a lot of comments saying, uh, "Oh, so she's on her 64th self-diagnosis because all women talking about any mental health issues must be crazy or must be making it up." And in reality, if you go and listen to my videos, if you go and listen to your videos, you will quickly see that what we share of our life stories could not have come from any other place other than personal experience, other than from up here and the life that we've lived. I've seen people call me a thought. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like uh, basically girls online trying to seek attention.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
Oh, I think I'd it that her over there.
Yeah, THOTT. I don't know if that's an acronym for something. I don't know. Don't look it up. I actually
Oh,
don't know what that is.
it means, that HOE over there.
Oh, that's why you said that. That's what that means. Got it. I'm connecting the dots now. See, your viewers should be so glad that they are watching this right now because they're
Oh,
getting information they didn't ask for.
I regularly get information because 'cause I'm not up on the I'm just not up on all the lingo or how to use it, so
Yeah, same.
I don't understand the tism riz, and I don't know that I will.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in economics and
Mhm,
politics. A lot of us are very justice driven. I think on the autism spectrum, a lot of us are very, very passionate about a lot of things. And so, again, there are a lot of things that I could have talked about, that would have brought me joy. But I decided to make myself vulnerable and partially to get it off of my chest. Um, and but also to make other people feel less alone,
mhm,
and so that I felt less alone. But I was definitely worried that there would be a lot more negative comments. Like, I just really thought there would be a whole lot more outsiders looking in, and it was a lot more autistic people listening to my content, which just sounds like such a obvious thing, like, how could I have thought anything else? But, you do when you first start your channel, but you still have to be prepared to get those negative comments because they're gonna happen, and I think it's really hard for us to deal with injustices and to
mhm,
deal with, like, people, having wrong information and that type of thing, so it's hard not to react, not to take things personally. I know
mhm.
it's really hard not to take things personally, but you do have to be prepared for that if you're gonna be putting yourself out there on YouTube.
Yeah, I think when I first started, and I think I probably said this on a video before, I thought that I had I took the assumption that everyone was commenting from, I don't wanna say a good place, like um, maybe a good place, like a place of gen a genuine place,
Mhm,
but that's not true. If it's, like, constructive criticism, it can stay up, I don't mind, but if it's, like, deliberately hurtful or hateful or it spreads misinformation, then I can delete the comment. And I used to think, like, when I first started, like, "Oh, I'd never delete a comment," because everyone deserves a platform to talk about what they wanna talk about, and then I learned that that is not true. So, It's
Some
not.
people just want to stir the pot and be antagonistic. That's what a troll is, right? And not everybody deserves airtime, I guess you could say. I am of the same thought because I'm a huge, like, free speech. If I'm curating my comments section, then I'm not growing. Other perspectives might help people, learn different ways of seeing things because I'm just one voice. I think it's great to have dissent in the comments. And really, if somebody is being an a hole in the comments, then they look stupid, not you.
Yeah.
But if it is something that is just purely like antagonistic, hateful, trolling, especially like spreading misinformation, um, I mean, you have that right. It's a tool that I have not wielded yet. But if it was bad enough, I might. I lean more towards like correcting them in a response or whatever, or just not giving it the time of day.
Hmm.
Um, it is hard, but again, like I I actually want some negative comments because one of these days I'm going to do a video on it and it's going to be epic. I'm going to have a whole bunch of negative comments to go through and it's going to be great.
I know I don't know if I still have them, but like I usually I'll screenshot it so I have it to save it, and then or I'll send it to some friends and be like, "Look how funny this is." Um,
Yeah. What's
yeah.
the worst one you've ever gotten?
I don't know. I just stuff like you should show the doctor that diagnosed you these videos and they would tell you you're not autistic. Uh,
Oof.
I think maybe the worst comment I've ever gotten was in person. Uh, I was talking to somebody at like a party about an autism diagnosis, and I think was talking to them and another person overheard me, and I was saying, well, because some people think like an autism diagnosis is like worse than death, and they were like, yes. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go die now then. Bye. Like, I just like didn't like uh um or like I've gotten, just like bringing up autism in a public space where people don't necessarily understand that you're autistic, and having to like hear the, oh, well, a friend of a friend got autism from vaccines and just like stuff like that, where it's like your eye starts to twitch and you're like, not now, not here, not the time. Those are kind of the worst things that I've heard. What about you?
Um, I I think
You don't have to
you
share if you don't want to.
yeah, no, I've definitely had in the beginning, like I just really wanted to tell everybody, and like one of the first people I told was like, "Oh, I mean, you're like a little bit quirky, but I don't
Mhm.
think you're autistic." And so that kind of, again, that was an in-person thing. And maybe why that's a little bit more hurtful or it stands out is because that's people that know you on some level, even if it's
Yeah.
superficial, invalidating your experience that they have no idea what it's like inside your head, your
Mhm.
day-to-day life. And quite frankly, they are ill-informed about what autism is. And honestly, I'm going to say some things that some people might consider to be controversial, but I think part of that does come from the fact that the DSM-5 put together under the same umbrella.
Mhm.
Aspergers, is it Aspergers? I
It's
don't know.
P. It's P.
Aspergers and
As per
autism.
per, as in like a cat purr. Asperger.
Yeah. Oh, look at you. Did you Google it? You were like, what, how is this pronounced?
I just know that it's not Asperger's because I used to, man, I was not a nice like I remember there being a girl in high school who had uh they said like she had other issues as well, and I feel bad that I was trying to fit in and like find like tease her or whatever. You know, hindsight is, I mean, 2020.
Mhm.
A2 Brute. Like Tahaish, you are the man. It was me. I remember just being like, I heard she's got Asbergers. That's so funny.
Mm.
Asbergers, but yeah, no, I think it's Aspergers, P-E-R. It's definitely got a P in it. So,
You know, we're here on YouTube talking about this. We should know this either way. I think that, I understand all the reasons they were combined, and that's absolutely, I'm not being critical of any of it. What I am saying is that that did just recently happen. And I
yeah,
think it's going to take a while for people to understand that now everything is lumped under the, autism umbrella, and so that's part of where that ignorance comes from, because if you're not higher support needs and you say you're autistic, well, this isn't their world, it's our world. We know what's up with the DSM-5 and how these things are classified. But
right.
if autism has not touched their lives, then all they know is the low support needs, or high support needs, excuse me, form of autism that they see in little boys, and I don't get upset at that. I have a lot of
Yeah,
grace and understanding for people, because, um, you know, uh, that's like somebody getting real upset at us because we don't understand the mechanics of a truck. Well, that's not my world, I don't
exactly.
live in it. I'm not a mechanic. So I understand why people invalidate it, because they don't know that the two have been combined.
Yeah, that's true. Has anyone ever told you you don't look autistic?
Mm, surprisingly,
No, I haven't really gotten that. Oh, I
yeah,
did when I posted a short and I was like, "You don't look autistic in the short."
yeah,
And in the
that
comments
guy.
it was like, "Yeah, you do." And I was like, "Ooh, bird. Thanks."
Um, yeah, I haven't had anybody say that yet. And when people say you don't look autistic, I think what they really mean is that you don't have the observable traits of
Right.
autism. Because obviously most mental illnesses or neurodevelopmental disorders are invisible. You don't see them on the outside. And I don't think that anybody is really ignorant enough that they think that autism has a look like
Mhm.
Down syndrome does. Trisomy of the 23rd chromosome does have, physical facial features that you can identify it by, but that's a one-off. People aren't actually, to my knowledge, there might be one or two out there that confuse the two, but most mental health issues or developmental disorders don't have a look. So what they're
Right.
actually saying is you don't act this way. You don't
You
act
don't act
like,
the way that I think you would act.
yes, you don't act like my, friend's 5-year-old autistic son. That's what they're saying
Mhm.
when they say you don't look autistic. So, I haven't had that one yet. I did kind of test the waters talking to a relative to see if it was safe to communicate my diagnosis with them, in talking about my father and how my father was absolutely on the spectrum. And I was met with all sorts of I mean, every stereotypical thing you could imagine in the playbook, like, well, he held a job, he had a family, he did have, a friend, a couple of friends. Um, he was nothing like, I have a friend who has an autistic son that's not potty trained, like dad, or your dad wasn't like that, those types of things.
Mhm.
And so I was like, oh, not safe. Nope.
Yeah,
Not safe.
it's hard because I know that, for me, there was, like, a feeling of wanting to like, maybe I shared with, like, too many people when I first found out because it felt like such a relief, like, I could just be like, "Look, it all makes sense now. Now you can understand me, I can understand you," and not realizing that, maybe for me it was the piece of the puzzle. Ooh, I hate using a puzzle analogy, but, um, maybe for me it was, like, the key. But for other people, it maybe would, um they wouldn't respond well. Like, like, at first, like, I didn't think that about my friends and family or people that I knew. I didn't think they were gonna respond. I don't know, I just thought, like, I was naive, I guess. I was naive and thought, "Oh, I could share it with anybody and they would just be understanding." But that's probably the, me seeing the good in everything part of autism.
Mhm.
Oh, we could definitely talk about that. So, it didn't take you that long to get monetized, I think.
You don't think so?
No, it took me, I definitely hit my watch hours before I hit the 1,000 subscribers.
Oh.
Um, but I think, if I wanted to grow more quickly, I really picked the wrong way to do that. With like just making videos about whatever I wanted to and not like sticking to one topic. How do
Mhm.
you how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like you've have, like, autism video fatigue yet, or do you feel like you space them out long enough? Because I thought I'd
Mhm.
have content forever. I could talk about everything forever, and I would never run out of ideas, but now I'm like, and something Orion has reminded me of is, like, you can make a video about the same thing more than once. But in my mind, I'm like, "No, I've already talked about that. Just look at the video." But, like, have you ever, like, felt like there are times when you're like, "Oof, I don't know if I could talk about this anymore?"
Oh my gosh, your question is spiraling so many thoughts for me. Okay, so first of all, I like to repeat myself to my husband all the time, and he will say, "No," he's like the sweetest guy. Rather than saying, "You told me that already," he'll say, "Well, no, I learn, I hear a little bit of different detail every time you tell me that story." And I'm like, "Oh, you're
That's
so
kind.
nice." So you can talk about the same subject over, more than once. But I have realized autism is kind of a static, it's not like current events, right?
Mm,
It
mhm,
where you would have something new to talk about like almost every single day. And the other issue is that like a lot of the subjects have already been done, right? Like
mhm,
how
yeah.
many videos are out there about meltdowns? How many videos are out there about
10
um,
signs you might be on the spectrum.
masking, and so it is kind of hard to not repeat those. But even if you do, I feel like autistic people have enough of a need for familiarity
Mhm,
that it doesn't bother them, to be honest.
right.
Hearing the same subject over and over again, but as far as like, I'm still new, right? So I haven't had the opportunity to completely run out of topics yet. But I have felt the fatigue in regard to like coming up with topics, and trying to be nuanced in how I approach them. But I think just, speaking from the heart does a lot because there's always things just going on in my own head. And I've found if I just find that I kind of find a way to put into words what's going on up here, it's usually well received. And so I don't have to put the cart before the horse of thinking
Mm,
what am I going to what topic am I going to talk about? Like I just, live life and then I'm like, "Oh, hey, I should talk about this. I should make a video of this." But it's difficult for me to make videos because I also have several part-time jobs and a kid and carpool and so I try to work my videos in where I can, but it's difficult. But yeah, that's a great question. What about you? Like, have you felt like you've run out of stuff to talk about?
maybe not that it's like there are days when I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know what to talk about." But more so, and I took a break from doing, like, straight up autism videos for a while because I feel like there's an emotional tax that comes along with it, um, especially, and I can only speak for myself and other late diagnosed people, there's a lot of, I hate throwing the word trauma around, right? Because it's like, I feel like it might be overused. Um but there is a lot of emotions to sort through. There's a lot of, um, we might be talking about a subject and like having an open conversation about it, but that doesn't mean we're talking about every way that that subject has affected us um, throughout the years. So there's like an emotional weight to talking about um, basically yourself
Yeah.
um, and things that maybe um, for example, like me before talking about how like I may have teased people or not been the nicest person, like talking about your past in a light where maybe you don't like that person that you were, or um past behaviors that maybe you don't agree with, or past self that you don't agree with anymore. I think that for me can be difficult. But it's also, I guess it's also nice to see growth in yourself. Um, but yeah, like sorry for who I was before I was diagnosed, I guess. Like put that on a t-shirt. Sorry for what I said when I was ignorant of my diagnosis.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so like being self-reflective, maybe not necessarily talking about autism. That's not necessarily the issue, but always having like I take all of the things that I say really personally. So being self-reflective constantly can be hard. Sometimes you just want to glide through and not have to do the work all the time because I feel like I've done a lot of work on myself.
Yeah. Well, and I think that in addition to that, talking about autism is a emotionally taxing subject. We are all trying to educate the world that the medical model of deficits isn't the right way to look at autism because it's not wrong, it's just different.
Mhm, mhm,
But there are a lot of hard aspects about being autistic, and it's it's even more difficult in a lot of regards. I think I don't want to say more difficult, but there is a difference being an autistic female, even
mhm,
with all the pressures and expectations that women already have on them. So, and yes, there's a lot of benefits of autism and a lot that we've brought to this world, and there's a lot of positives that we could speak about. But honestly, the outside world does kind of make it feel like a deficit a lot of the time. And so it almost feels like you're going on to the YouTubes and complaining, in a way, because it's
yeah.
like um, it, it it does present challenges being autistic,
What was your first response when you realized you might be on the spectrum? Like, do you remember what you were feeling or what went through your mind?
Hope, honestly, that I could get an answer um, because I felt so different that I would bring up my Myers-Briggs personality type all the time in talking to people
INFJ?
because
Are you an INFJ?
INTP, so logician.
Mm,
I
mhm.
see a lot of INFJs, not as many INTPs in the autistic community. And maybe that's because I've also got the ADHD. Do you also have ADHD? Now I'm interviewing you, but I'm just curious.
I am not diagnosed. I would say that I have many, many traits,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm
So,
not diagnosed.
yeah. So I just felt so inherently different from everybody else. I'd just be like, oh, well, that's my logician personality type because only
Mm,
2% of women test logician. And so I just relied on that to kind of explain why I preferred conversation with males over females, why I seemed more robotic and less emotional. Again, as a female, I'm expected to be maternal and emotional. And instead, I kind of seem like cold-hearted and I don't want to say cold-hearted, but like not as emotional. and maternal. And, that's how that whole term refrigerator mothers came up, was because autistic mothers like me who struggle with, might struggle with affection and physical touch and communication, that it was thought that their children turned out autistic because their mothers were less emotionally available, and now we know it's genetic. And so it gave me a lot of hope to, maybe there's an actual medical model that explains this, as opposed to
Yeah.
just my Myers-Briggs personality type. And I was excited to go and research it. And the very first video that I watched was all the stereotypical male presentations of autism that I did not exhibit. So I lost hope and told my husband, no, that can't be it, because it said that I don't understand sarcasm. I can't I wouldn't have any friends, that I would have a severe special interest in one particular thing, that I would rock back and forth and flap my hands. And, I don't do those things. And he's like, oh, that's not, what I've heard about it. And so I did go back and research it and found females on the spectrum who, you know, I related to on a scary, scary level,
Right. Oh my
which
gosh.
is part of the reason I think it's great too that we put ourselves out there, because it's almost like we're paying it forward. Maybe you could be that for somebody else that was in my position, that's like, wait, there is, someone else out there like me that experiences autism like I do.
Mhm, mhm. Maybe that's another reason why when we started our channels, you don't expect a community. I wanna do an unedited video. I accidentally put one up once, and then I took it down because I had an edited video, and then I accidentally put up the raw footage, and I was mortified.
Oh,
Not
geez.
not that I had that many subscribers, so I immediately took it down and re-uploaded it. Um, I remember there was, like, a comment like, "Oh, that's okay, like, you could put unedited stuff," but I don't think people realize just how boring a person could be. Do you
Yeah.
ever watch yourself when you're editing and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm making myself tired?"
So, because I do a lot of my videos scripted, I don't have a ton of like trailing off or like, losing my train of thought. But I will say that I've been guilty of refilming more than once. And gosh, even my first YouTube video, I filmed it like vertical, not horizontal, because I didn't know that's how you were supposed to do it. But I've refilmed more than once. And I've uh, I know that people do want more like rawness. They don't really care about all the bells and whistles. And this is something that I've, told other people who have come to me. Why me? I don't know, because I'm just a little YouTuber still, but they will ask like, hey, I don't know how to like edit videos or whatever. And it's like, really, you don't need to, you just grab your
Mhm.
phone and go and just speak from the heart. And you know what? YouTube has this cool feature called 2 times playback speed or whatever you want to do. As long as you have a good point to get across, people don't really care.
Right.
I haven't uploaded the raw video footage of anything just yet, but people really don't care about all the bells and whistles.
I don't think another point is, like, you can't really ever make everybody happy. Because I remember when I first started, I'd have a script and I would just read from it. That's how I felt comfortable. And now I have to edit more because, people would say, "Well, like, I don't want scripted videos." But I'm thinking to
Mhm.
myself, like, "Well, how will I know?" Like, there has to be some element. So right now what I do is basically write a guideline of the things I like, more of like a
Bullet points.
an outline of what I'd like to
Yeah.
say. But because I do it that way, there's a lot of pausing and restating, or like you go to say something and like the wrong words come out, or you like mispronounce a bunch of stuff and then it's like, blah, 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 blah. So you have to restate it. Like, I don't want to put all that in. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you said that you can't please all the you can please some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. I do a lot of, quick cuts and taking out, breaths and ums and ahs and everything else, and a lot of people hate that because their slow processing speed doesn't allow them to keep up with
Mhm.
how that video is edited. But then some people might like, the more, quick videos. And then some people, like I've literally seen people say, I don't like it this way, I don't like it that way. And you quickly find like you just gotta find your style and be true to yourself. And the
Right.
people that want to be a part of your community will come, and the people who don't like your editing style, because you literally can't be all things for all people. You can't, you
I
just
feel like
can't.
that especially when it comes to, live streams, like, no, I just had to realize that no matter when I schedule a live stream, there is it's impossible that everybody who wants to make it will be able to make it. And I get, like I'll schedule something and then it'll be like, well, that's 3 a.m. where I am, or that's 2 a.m. where I am. I can't come. And like, or people will apologize, like, oh, sorry, I was sleeping. And again, nothing against these people. I'm so happy that they want to come. There's never going to be a good time where
Yeah,
everyone's
well,
going to be
you need
available.
to tell these people where it's 3 AM their time that they need to set an alarm, and they need to wake up, and they need to tune in to your live. I love your lives. Your lives are a blast. They're so much fun because you just, like, talk about anything and everything. I haven't been brave enough to do one yet. If I do one, will you come, Claire?
No.
Please? Come on, I
Yes.
asked
Oh, sure.
nicely.
Oh, yeah, sure. Absolutely. Sorry. I don't even know what I was thinking just then. Um,
I thought you were being sarcastic.
I was. Oh, sorry. I
Oh,
was. Forgive me. See, this is a thing. Before when you were like, I can read sarcasm. I think I can. And then once I like, usually I'll start to doubt myself and then I'll take it literally. I realize that I take things literally more than I think I do. Like
mhm,
I'm great at doing the sarcasm, but then like when I get unsure when I'm reading it from people. I get
I
very
get
unsure.
I get
But
that.
no, no, I'll if I'm available, I can make it.
If I don't
It
make it at 3 AM your time?
Yeah, that might be hard, but like once some uh in the crafting zones of YouTube communities. I was on Kim from Affordably Crafty. She had a live stream she invited me on and it was like 5 in the morning my time, and I still did it. So
Go you.
you should have seen me. I was like, so nice to meet her.
So
I'm so
happy.
happy you invited me on.
I
Uh,
love it.
yeah, I was like drinking coffee at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh, yeah.
no, I'll be there only and there's so much to learn. Like people who live stream, I don't know. I'm just gonna sit comfortably. I don't know where it takes so much of my energy. It's like a constant, like you have to constantly be on
Mhm.
and like be watching and responding. And that way it like goes by fast, it's fine. But in other ways it's super emotionally taxing. And I realized, like, for example, I did the like, sorry if I'm talking too much about myself and not interviewing you. I realized that like when I did the New Year's Eve thing and I was live streaming for like 3.5 hours. That's way too long for me. I don't know what I was thinking. By the time I finished, all I could think was like of all the terrible things I said, of everything that people were gonna judge me on.
Oh,
Um, you know, you can't control what other people say or like what their comments are. Like you can take them off, you can kick them out. But like if you're not comfortable with everything people said, then I'm like thinking about that. Like I don't want that on my live stream. Um, yeah. It's just I would give yourself a time limit. Like even if you feel good after an hour, be like, okay, I'm done.
yeah, I'm done.
Um, because I was like, I feel great and I'm bored, so why not just stay on for 3.5 hours? It's totally fine. Yeah, no, too long, too much. I need to know my limits.
Boundaries, personal boundaries. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I would be worried about people not showing up. Maybe like 20 people would show up. That would make me happy. That would be great. If even 20 people showed up and chatted a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't get that many. It's weird because I see people with bigger channels than me and, like, they'll only have 20 people show up, so I guess it just depends on who's available at the time, and it kind of helps if you can pre-schedule, so I can teach you how to do that if you don't know how. You can pre-schedule the
Yeah.
live stream so that people know that it's coming. I think that's helpful. Um, if you're just doing it randomly, then of course not that many people are gonna be there because YouTube won't send out a notification necessarily. So, I don't know. It's hard though. Like, it's so fun to interact with people in real time, especially because, like, you don't have to actually be in the same room with anybody,
Mhm.
but it's a lot of I feel like it's a lot of emotional labor, um
I think that's a great thing about having a YouTube channel too, is that we are able to like build community and chat with people without actually having to be in the same room with them.
it's
Um,
great. It's amazing.
yeah, chat with you online, and I don't have to like, have the spoon theft of meeting with you in person. And I wonder if that's kind of the draw for a lot of people wanting to share their story on YouTube if they're autistic, is that it gives them a chance to build a community and to interact with the world and share about themselves in a way that's not so draining. I mean,
Yeah,
it is
maybe that's
draining,
like
but yeah.
sorry. Maybe we're doing such a good job not talking over each other, by the way. I'm so proud of
Yeah.
us. Uh,
Yeah.
maybe that's something that we could maybe end with, talking about being ASD ladies on YouTube. I hear a lot from other women who are interested in starting channels, and what would your thoughts or advice be for those people who are, like, thinking I feel like the answer is, like, pretty general anyway, but, like, what would your advice be to people who are, like, thinking about starting a channel, but maybe they're like, "Well, people already said everything there is to say," or, "I don't know where to start." Like, what are your thoughts for somebody who? Because I know I thought that,
Hmm.
and I'm sure you did as well, like, what would your advice be to those people who are, like, thinking about it?
Oh my gosh, so much. And I'm glad that you brought this up. Close it out with, maybe we should have put this in the forefront, to be honest with you,
No, because
because
now I learned that we could do, like, at the beginning, it's like, "Coming up, tips on"
yes,
that,
true.
and
And
then
then you got to
people
stay
watch
all the
the
way through.
end. Yes, Jen. You gotta learn the
Genius.
tricks.
Genius.
I say that like I know and that I've been successful.
You, girl, you are successful. I adore you. I love your energy. I love your channel. I love the story behind your name. I was having a whole conversation with my husband about that and how deep it is.
But your
Um,
name see, but your name is super catchy, and for that, I'm very jealous. Because, like, my name requires an explanation, and
yeah.
that is like a turn off for some people, so
But once they understand, I think it is very hard hitting. But to get to the question of what would we say, right? Like sidetracks, what would we say to women who want to start a channel? I would say, don't ever think that, everything has already been discussed, because if you have a story to share, whatever like, we are all so different. How many billions of times has this been said as a disclaimer on every single channel, that if you've met one person on the spectrum, you've met one person on the spectrum. And I find people really do want to hear themselves in the videos that we put out, and they want
Mhm.
to relate to things that we say, and we are not going to mirror everybody. So the more voices we have out there, the more people will be able to relate. So, whatever the nuanced take or difference for you personally is on your story, your journey, somebody is going to relate to it. If you think it's been done, you have lived a different life and you are at a different place on the spectrum that is going to speak to somebody. Secondly, I would say go into it wanting to do it because you want to do it, not to get famous, not to get money, not to get a huge following. Do it because you enjoy it, because it's a hobby, because the minute it stops being a hobby for you or something that you enjoy, that's going to show in your work. And what are you doing this for then, anyways? I would say be prepared for the mean comments because they will come,
Mm,
but you just have to realize that that's more of a reflection of them rather than a reflection on you. Um, and like I said, just grab your phone and go. I know that a lot of people, especially us who struggle with perfectionism or OCD, really think that they've got to have so many things in place before they can, start their YouTube journey, and it's not true.
right. Yeah, what's interesting is when I started, um, I like went typical OCD ASD lady, like I went all in as like started with an LLC, started with uh bought a camera, like I was like I'm going to set myself up for success. All of that to learn that like not all of that is necessary when you're first getting started. Like you can build towards that. You don't need to be um worried about the end in the
Mhm.
beginning. Um like those are things you can like build on, like learn as you go is completely fine. It doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to be perfect. And um but that, that's I struggle with that because I want it. I'm happy that I did it the way that I did it because I wanted this to be a business for me as well, right? Like I've got other stuff going on. Um, but like if I was just wanting to talk about autism, I think talk about my life, well, I mean anything. Like just pick the things that you want to that make you feel passionate about and you feel passionate about sharing. But then I also want to put out there if that's not for you, don't feel pressured to do that. Because I also feel like I get comments, and I don't know if you do as well. It's like, I kind of want to start a channel, but I'm like a really shy person. And I don't know that I would be able to. Like, I feel like a little bit of like pressure to be an advocate. Like, you don't need to do any of that. Like, if that's not who you are, um, you could just watch the videos. You don't have to participate. Like, I
Right.
get people who comment and they're like, "I never comment. I just wanted to show my support." And it's like, you don't have to comment either. I'm happy that you're here and I'm happy
Yeah.
that you did comment, but it's okay to be a bystander and to mm,
Consume content as opposed
consume,
to
like
produce it.
reap it and not sow it, you know? Like
Right.
it's okay. Um
Yeah.
you're there's no requirement. There's no right way to be an autistic person. Um, and there's no right way to handle a diagnosis. Like we're all gonna experience that differently. So
You want to find a different way to, if you do feel compelled, then start a blog or do a faceless channel or something like that. Those are options too.
I mean, look, I know people who write poetry, they do advocacy work like in their community. Uh so it doesn't have to look like YouTube, it can look other ways. And then it doesn't have to be anything at all. Like
And right.
we need to acknowledge that not everyone has I think privilege can be a heavy word, but yeah, like there are some people where it's not safe for them or it wouldn't be good for them
Right.
to disclose. So just know that if that's you, we see you
Yep.
and we accept that. And you're doing great, even if you
Yep.
don't feel pressured to do something that you don't need to do.
You are awesome. Like it's hard enough being an autistic in a neurotypical world. So just being you, you've done great.
It took me like 2 seconds to realize that you weren't talking about me in particular.
But Claire, you are also great being
I take
autistic
everything literally.
and
I'm like, "Oh, thank you." No, she's talking about you guys. Great. That's totally fine. That's totally fine.
that
Um,
was the best way to end this.
well, I'm so happy that you came on the show today. I think that this, conversation will really help other people, and I'm so glad that anything that I could do to expose people to neurodivergent and all of the good work that you're doing. If you're into videos that are well researched, well supported by sources, um, I would definitely check Jen out. I'll have a link to her down below. I will also try to link her in the um, exit page to make it easy for you. But yeah, everyone have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time. Right, Jen?
Bye.
Bye.
Mwah.